Who was your 4 again? Is that Scadaboo?
Dylan Sampson from
Oh, it's
Tennessee.
Samson. All right. Samson's number 6 for me. Let's get into Dylan Sampson, a Mike Renner favorite here.
So this is another one where the situation around him is very relevant and has to come up for a slightly different reason. So Iowa, the situation is great because the run blocking is on point. It's a good offensive line. It's consistently sort of creating well-blocked run plays. Tennessee, the problem is that offense is such a weird system and such an unusual. It creates spaces where spaces don't exist in any other offense, right? And normally we focus on that from a wide receiver standpoint. We talked about it, years ago with Jalen Hyatt. We've talked about it this year with Dante Thornton Jr. Like it's not a real system relative to like an NFL system, right? So these guys it's abstractions. You're looking at wide receivers. Like this is not wide receiver tape. This is effectively like picking an athlete, asking him to run like a go route and a hitch, just in practice and being like, yeah, that's my number one wide receiver. It's impossible. It's a complete and total projection. Well, that extends to the running game as well, where running against 5-man boxes is perfectly typical for Dylan Sampson. There were 4-man boxes that I was looking at times. Now, remember, there are 5 blockers on the offensive line. So when you're running into a legitimate 4-man box, automatically it should be a huge gain, right? And this was not like, 3rd and 18, it's a 4-man box. This is like 1st and 10. So that you have to factor that in, right? Dylan Sampson is running against some absurdly light fronts. So consequently, he's got more space to work with. And when you're talking about a 5'8", 200-pound, guy that survives and thrives off moves and speed and quickness, having more space to work with is hugely relevant. It's hugely important. So just like Caleb Johnson, I think you at least have to ask the question, what happens if this picture in front of him on a consistent base, like the average picture, what happens if the average picture gets worse? I think you have to ask the question, what happens when the average picture for Dylan Sampson gets A, worse, and B, more packed with bodies? Because that's going to happen at the next level. Now, countering that, so that's just context, right? We need to at least think of that when we're watching Dylan Sampson tape. Then you get to the tape and you're like, okay, this guy, I think, strings together moves better than anybody else in this draft class. Genty, but better than anybody outside of Ashton Genty. Like he can do everything from a move standpoint, like spins, juke moves, like jump cuts, little bits of power, like leaping over people, and he can do it all sequentially with no lag time, right? There are other guys where they've got all those in the bag, but it's like one at a time, right? It's like you select the club, take the swing, and then you got to put it back, and you got to get the next club out. Like they can do that, but he can do it all. Like it's like he's got all of them in his hand at any one time, and it's just like swing, 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 swing. His ability to just string together the moves is the most impressive thing I've seen from him.
No, I agree. I was trying to watch, pulled up some of his explosive plays to back you up on some of like what Tennessee's going up against. He's got this long run against Oklahoma, 5-man box, and he's got a lead blocker in there. So it's 6 on 5, right? So just remember the math of football, right? A 7-man box is usually 6 blockers against 7, or sometimes it's 7 on 6, but it's 6 against 7, and the running back is supposed to make one guy miss, right? And then you add an 8th guy to the box, you add an extra blocker. Okay, you have to make the 8th man miss. We're talking about Tennessee have 6 blockers against 5 in the box. So you're already, it's like 7 on 5. It's insane. So yeah, that is a question, right? But I like the way you described it. I wrote down just that he slides off tackles, right? He's another force indirect contact type of player. He's very good at that. You just haven't seen a whole lot of against 7 in the box, against 8 in the box. Yeah. How does he navigate tight spaces? How does he find the 3 yards, right? Which sometimes is just as important. I'm a speed, big play guy. Love that. Love what Jahmyr Gibbs brings to the Lions and how special that can be when you set a guy up. But sometimes just finding 3 when it's not there is extremely important. And we haven't seen a ton of that from Dylan Sampson.
All right, that's enough of that, Steve. Over 50% of the people listening to this are not subscribed right now. So click that button and then we can get back to whatever it is Steve's telling you about. I think when we had Renner on, Renner loves Dylan Sampson as well. I think Renner said that he just he plays with that kind of, level of violence and determination that the NFL likes. Like it just looks right. He's also like, he's got a 10.48 100-meter time on his resume. This is a legit home run threat. Like, that's sprinter speed. So he can go when he finds the hole, when he gets the crease, when he gets space. He is a legitimate home run threat. Like, comparing him to Jalen Wright from the same offense recently coming out, I thought that his balance and power was better than Jalen Wright in the same offense. I liked Wright's vision inside and his ability to set up blocks a little bit better. So it's sort of it's a little bit of a kind of mixed bag. Like, each guy had strengths, but like Sampson's speed, vision, balance, ability to string together moves, all extremely impressive. Sometimes 200 pounds, I think, shows up. Like, there are plays where he's just ragdoll to the floor because 200 pounds is 200 pounds, but it doesn't happen that often. Overall, I think he's a really impressive player.
Yeah, it's funny because he ran 4.46 at the combine, and he was one that I just noted during the season, like, things look different when he's running the ball for Tennessee. Again, just like in passing, watching college football this year, I did expect to see a little more speed and athleticism when I went back play for play to watch that. So I don't know if it always shows up despite having the track history. And given the track history, you might expect him to run a little bit faster in the actual 40 at the combine. So I think it's all fine. It's cogent, solid.
It's all fine.
It's all fine. But I think I expected to see a little bit more special speed and athleticism actually show up on film for Dylan Sampson. Jalen Wright, you felt the speed, because he played faster and, took it to the house. Felt like more often. I don't know have the exact numbers for me, but
no, I think that's fair. Like, Jalen Wright definitely felt more like once you give him the crease, he's gone. Whereas I think Samson has some of that potential in him as well, but it doesn't show up as often, or didn't show up as often.
So again, Sampson's by 6. He's your number 4 running back from Tennessee. He was 22 rushing touchdowns last year. He knew how to find the end zone. I'm not necessarily calling him a great, there's a couple guys in this class who I think are fantastic tight red zone type of runners. But yeah, Sampson was a playmaker, man, for Tennessee. It is always difficult to unpack that entire offense and to repeat for the millionth time. Good for Tennessee, good for Josh Heupel, good for college football, difficult for NFL evaluations, because they're exploiting the hash marks, they're exploiting space, which is good football coaching, but it's bad for NFL draft projections, because that's not how the NFL runs.
It is a great college offense. It is hateful for projecting anything to the NFL because it is so far away from what the NFL is doing. That's the problem. That's why I don't like it. From the college perspective, it's fantastic. It's a cheat code. Like, it is a perfect way of creating advantages for your athletic playmakers. But it becomes very frustrating when you then have to project that to the NFL, when these guys are going to have to do something very, very different than they are doing in college.
Thanks for watching all the way to the end of our video.
For more great content, click here to subscribe and here to watch another video. We'll see you again soon.